Hey, hey there. Hey there. Hello there, friend. Welcome. I'd like to invite you to join me today for lesson 23. And we're going to get into divine relationships, y'all. Beautiful, divine relationships. Okay, so we have built up this whole foundation. Lessons 1 through 22 have really been setting the stage for optimizing yourself. You're just managing your own personal well-being, your own personal environment. Because if you remember back all the way to lesson, I don't know, maybe it was 2 or 3 or something, we talked about the I, we, all concept. I before we, always. And so with that concept, your ability to manage yourself is directly going to impact your ability to manage a relationship, which would be the we level, which is why we spent so much time on that, because in my experience, and just a caveat, I'll be the first to tell you, I am nowhere near perfect with relationships. It's not to say that I personally struggle with relationships, but there's always, as if you're listening to this, and really fucking anybody will be able to tell you, that relationships are challenging, especially like the more intimate that you are with somebody, the deeper that you go with somebody, the longer that you are together, that you're choosing to partner and couple and be involved with somebody. More and more of the shit comes up, and especially depending on what kind of life path that you choose, different things are going to come up, and it's challenging. And so I'm continuously working on that. Like I said, I'm not perfect in this, although I do feel like I am at a place where I have made a lot of progress, and I feel like what I can share can be valuable, and if anything else, just get you moving in the right direction when it comes to managing your relationships. Because a lot of times the relationships in people's lives are the biggest source of personal stress. But on the other side of that, and the reason why we focus on the personal management first, is because one thing that you may come to learn, that I've learned, that you may come to learn in relationships, is that nobody can make you react any certain way. It's so easy to want to point fingers and say, oh, I feel this way because this person did this thing, or I'm angry now because you said this, or I'm sad now because this circumstance happened. And so this happens in relationships, but really any part of life, where your reaction is your reaction, and you just got to own that shit. Nobody can, like, one of the ways that I like to look at it is, nobody can take anger, can take the emotion of anger and give it to you to make you feel angry. It is something that arises from within. And yes, somebody may do something and may react in a certain way, or may behave in a certain way, or may say something that does very much justify the response of anger or sadness or even joy or love, or whatever the emotion, the energy might be. But either way, regardless of the external trigger, that emotion, that energy is arising from within you. And even just recognizing that is very, very powerful. It's huge. Because when you recognize that, you realize that you have the choice to take personal responsibility for whatever is arising within you, and not projecting that to victimize yourself as being triggered from something out there, whether that's a person, a circumstance, or whatever. Okay. So when it comes to like an intimate relationship, when you're experiencing different challenges, and, you know, we're talking about challenges a lot, but I want to also shed light on just the beauty and the joy and the pleasure that comes from having a relationship. Because ultimately, a relationship, you know, this is something that I've really sat deeply with and contemplated a lot. And ultimately, a relationship is a means of getting to experience God. Because God can't experience itself without relationship, without subject and object, without you and me, without I and thou, without these complementary opposites, yin, yang, masculine, feminine, that allow this whole experience to be possible. God cannot experience all that God is. And God, in a sense, learns through relationship, just as you learn through relationship. Because if you think about it, and one of the ways that I've thought about this is, if I were to just, you know, be in my own little bubble by myself, my own space, which I have been there before, and sometimes I do recall those places where, you know, everything is exactly the way that I like it to be. There's nothing out of place. You know, I have complete control over my domain, and there's nobody is wanting anything from me. I'm able to just be by myself, and life's good. But I don't grow that way because I'm not faced, you know, everything is very comfortable and familiar. And therefore, I'm not faced with any challenges that provide me the opportunity to grow. Okay. And so this is why we call different relationships into our lives, because each relationship acts as a little mirror to show us different parts of ourselves, and ultimately then to show us opportunities that we have to grow, to become even more. And not necessarily to become more, but just to realize more of what we already are. And so a relationship is a way of learning more of what you are. And at the same time, as you grow in relationship, by you learning more of what you are, because it works both ways. As the other is the mirror for you, you are the mirror for the other. As you learn more of what you are, you then provide the basis to help the other learn more of who they are. And it goes both ways. And this is how we grow in relationship. But the key here is, firstly, accepting responsibility for your own emotions and energy and what is arising within you, and not reactively placing blame on the other. And then secondly, being willing to engage in the opportunities that are presenting themselves. And every opportunity, so the easiest way to look at it, at least for me, is every time that you sense some kind of trigger, you know, again, some kind of reaction to the other, whether it's like a strong emotion, whether it's a feeling of wanting to just shut down, which is more of a tendency for me, as a little quick side note, there's people talk about different attachment styles. So you have like avoidant, you have ambivalent, and you have, what's the other one? Help me out here. Avoidant, ambivalent, I don't remember. But basically, it's like, you can have a tendency to just run away, or you can have a tendency to want to engage more in conflict. So like personally for me, and you can look at past my like childhood and kind of how I grew up. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this, but a lot of times if you just look at your childhood and you look at your relationships with your parents or whatever that looks like, you will have a better understanding of now how you are showing up in your tendencies in your relationships now. So for me, I have that tendency to just want to avoid conflict, avoid confrontation. And when there is conflict, I have a tendency to just want to shut down. Okay. And essentially just run away, bury my head in the sand, and just wait for it to all go away. And then on the other side of that, you may have the tendency to, if you're in conflict, because, if you look at your relationship with your parents, like for me personally, I learned that it was better for me. I felt more safety and I felt more love when I just stayed quiet, didn't, cause any kind of fuss, and it was just, a good little boy. Okay. And on the other side of that, you may have experienced that you needed to be louder. You needed to be more reactive to finally get attention and receive love from your parents. And so in relationship, you may find the tendency to want to be louder and want to pursue and want to like, come on, I want your attention, and like begging for attention in whatever way that may show up. And a lot of times the two people are on both ends of the spectrum in a relationship. So you'll have one person that's avoidant and one person that is ambivalent. I believe that's the term for what I'm referring to. I could be wrong there. But you have one person that likes to run away from shit, and you have one person that likes to run towards the shit and to be louder. And as you can imagine, the one person that likes to avoid the shit continues to want to run away, the louder that the other person becomes. And the more that the person that likes to be loud sees the other person wanting to run away, the person that likes to be loud wants to be louder and louder and louder, or, just begging for more and more attention. And so it's like just kind of self-defeating loop. Okay. So that's a little bit of a side note there, but I think it's important just to understand the different dynamics of how these things can show up. So what I want to do for you is I want to provide you something practical, as always, when I can. And what I have found, because again, a relationship is this interaction, it's wholeness creating more wholeness. That is the beauty of a relationship, whether that's a friendship, whether that's a colleague, whether that's a family relationship, or whether that is an intimate relationship. And even if that's multiple intimate relationships, the same dynamics apply. And one of the keys, because essentially what I have found to be helpful, and I'm still experimenting with this and learning and developing this, but the same, remember the Divine Nine? Remember the Divine Nine? So the Divine Nine is essentially like a contract with yourself of how you are choosing to show up in a particular area of your life. and relate it to the different life types, these different areas of your life that you want to continuously improve upon, or that they're ways of being, expressions of being. And so just in the same way that you have the Divine Nine as a contract for yourself, you can create a Divine Nine as a contract with another. And you might say, well, why the fuck do I need a contract to be in a relationship? Well, the reason it is helpful to have a contract is because one of the biggest challenges in relationships of all kinds is communication, is being able to express your personal feelings, wants, desires, needs openly and effectively and clearly, so that they can be understood by the other, and at the same time being able to openly listen to and receive another person's wants, desires, needs, concerns, whatever. Okay? And so, as most of us have experienced, just trying to talk about these things sometimes with another, especially, without the help of some kind of third party mediator, it's very easy to just fall into the triggers. And again, it's like, okay, one person tries to run away, the other person tries to continue to chase after, which makes the person want to run away more. Or two people just clash, or two people just both run away from each other. Okay? So to mitigate that, it's helpful to have something that is written, that can be done more in a non-emotionally charged way. So what I have done, and what I'm inviting you to do, if you feel called to it, is create a Divine Nine contract for your version of what you feel is helpful and supportive in the relationship for you. Okay, so essentially both people will create their own version of the contract for themselves, and then you will come together and then you will create one final contract that infuses both together in a way where everybody feels that they are being heard and supported and considered. Okay? But I find it's helpful to do this alone first, so you can just fully be with this is my version of this, and then you can come together. So we'll just run through this quickly. So 1, what is the ultimate intention for the relationship? 2, what is the purpose for the relationship? Remember, this can be any kind of relationship. 3, what is the ultimate result, the tangible expression, the tangible manifestation of the intention? What is the ultimate result of the relationship? 4, what are the different roles that you play within the relationships, or that are played within the relationship as a whole? 5, what are the 3 things that need to happen on a consistent basis to continue to nurture the relationship? This is 3 to thrive. 6, what resources are available for you to continue to nurture the relationship? 7, what are the 1-year results, the tangible result for the relationship? What is the 1-year tangible result? And what is the 90-day tangible result? And if you really get into this, you can start to, you can see how these things align with your other life types and the other Divine Nine personal contracts you've made with yourself. And then 8, what is the key process So what is the non-negotiable? If you just did one thing on a consistent basis, non-negotiably, that was in line with the intention and the ultimate result, because remember, you want alignment between all of those, because ideally you just want it to be something that it just happens anyways. It's just you're systematizing it, you're getting clear on it, and you're making sure that it is non-negotiable. That's the key process. So for instance, for me, and like I said, Taylor and I, we are still kind of working on what this looks like together. But for me, that key process, and again, you remember, you want these things to be like, it's non-negotiable. So it may sound very, very simple, but that's the point, because then the simplicity means that it's very easy to make it non-negotiable. You're not creating this like, oh, this big thing is going to happen, and then it becomes unrealistic and it doesn't happen. You want it to be so simple that it can't be missed. And that's the power, because the consistency is key. So the key process for me was a 10-minute weekly check-in, like literally that simple. Because I've just noticed that just that in itself, just that weekly check-in of dedicated time of like, this is what we're focusing on. Like, this is when we're going to come together on this. That for me is like, I feel nurtured in that, because I'm the kind of person, I thrive. I value a lot of alone time. And so, that felt for me it's me being able to give and receive while also honoring and nurturing my own. Because personally, people talk about compromise in relationship and a lot. And I don't believe that is necessary. I don't believe that there should be any kind of compromise. I believe that everybody can have exactly what they want. It's just a matter of getting clear on what do you want. Because so much time we're not clear on what we want. So we're asking for things that we think that we want, even though we're not clear on what we want. And that's where a lot of challenges arise. So getting clear on what do I want? And then being able to express that so that it can be received. Okay. So that's number 8, key process. Number 9 is, what is the KPI and frequency? So what are you measuring, and how often are you measuring it? You see? So this, for me, it's as simple as, did the weekly check-in happen? That's the KPI. It's just a check. Like, yes, it happened. Doesn't have to be complicated, y'all. But you can see, hopefully, how powerful that is. Okay? So that would be my main invitation. There's other concepts that I'll just briefly introduce, but I'm still kind of developing, and I'm not exactly sure where they fit in, but I know they'll fit in somewhere. So in relationship, just like how you have different elements, you have ether. Ether is the kind of the source material of it all. And then you've got the air, fire, water, earth. You can have relational space, possibility, relational air, which is, just different ideas of things, relational fire, intention, relational water, charge, emotional charge, and relational earth, just groundedness within the relationship. So I'll probably introduce those concepts a little later on, because they're not as practical right now, but just engaging with that divine 9 contract. So again, you do your version, the other person do their version. And again, you maybe have them watch this video, because, at telling somebody or asking somebody, like, yo, can you do a contract for our relationship? It might not go over as well. It might get a little bit rejected. But, maybe having them watch this, or just, lovingly explaining the value and how this could help you to be able to come together even more in relationship, to grow together even more in relationship, could be very, very, very powerful. Because again, it helps to solidify These are the needs. This is what is here to be able to come together. So I think that's really it. It's really what I wanted to get through, just the importance of nurturing yourself first and foremost, managing yourself, because nobody can give you any kind of emotion. It's all arising within you. So even like the most challenging situations in relationships, just pay attention to your response. And this is something that can be additionally challenging, is you may have one person that is fully kind of in the trigger, fully in the reaction, while you're still maintaining your center. And again, it's not like a right, wrong, good or bad, better, worse kind of situation. It's just noticing and still choosing to honor your expression in the moment, in whatever capacity that may look like. Because, the other person may be begging you to engage and scream and fight and yell, because that is how they're wanting to receive in the moment. But you're still feeling called to maintain your presence and your centeredness, even though you've sensed that pull to engage at that different level. Okay. And again, my invitation there is just to trust in your guidance, trust in your centeredness, and trust in your heart, and move from that place. It's not going to be perfect, but as long as you are continuing to attempt to remain open, you will move in the right direction. Okay? So, thank you for tuning in. I know, like I mentioned, I'm really curious. I don't know if I will end up going back, but I'm curious for those tuning into this and like watching from start to finish, just the noticing of the energy changing through the seasons, because it is very much, we are in the fall now, and I definitely just feeling the energy more grounded now, and just kind of surrendering and just flowing and like just taking on less, doing less, and yet doing much, much more. So maybe you can sense that. All right. Thanks for tuning in. My pleasure as always to share my love to you in this relationship. And I look forward to sharing more again very soon. Peace.